Hi, and welcome to another Type with me. In this episode, I'm gonna talk about index signatures. So imagine that our code is something like this, right? It's a treasure, and then you have a treasure 2, and they have keys, and of course they have also values, which are just numbers. And yeah, you want to accumulate them together, right? Of course, you don't know what the object would be, because here you have profit and yearly treasure, and here you have a contract treasure. So how are you going to deal with that? What would be here the question marks? And how can we get the total treasure out of that? Well, that's why we need index signatures. And how does an index signature looks like? Well, it looks like this, right? It has a key and a string, and it has a number. So everything here needs to be a number then, right? And then we can accumulate them, and then you will see that we get a result out of that. If I save that, and we're going to do something like console.log, you will see that we get an index signature out of it, and our result will be alright. We will have no errors, right? So that's just great. I'm going to execute it. And here we go. This is our result, right? But you need to be aware that, for example, if you have something like this, a name, and then here captain in our object, and then you will see that he is not happy with it, right? You will get an error. And if you execute this one, you'll see that our compiler is not happy with that. So these are the disadvantages of this approach, right? So keep that in mind. Another thing that's very important to notice is that when we, for example, use this one, you will see here that an index signature parameter type must be either a string or a number, right? So we could not give it a Boolean type. So that's also something that's important to tell you. So a signature type always looks like this. It is a key, and then you have the key type, which is a string or a number, and then you have the value type, right? This is also possible. For example, you have an option, and it has keys of string and a number and a boolean, and then you have an extra parameter, which is timeout and just a number, right? So that's also something that's possible to work with. So another thing that you need to be aware of is if you want to access a non-existing property, that could be possible, right? You could get an undefined back. So keep that into mind, that it's not for every use case that I would use this. Index signatures, it's very useful for certain things to do in Typescript, right? But keep in mind that there are also caveats, and it is one of the caveats that you will encounter, that you are not sure that non-existing properties or this kind of property really will exist on that object, right? You have no guarantee, and you can have an undefined out of there. So keep that into mind. Of course, he says here, it's a string, because of course you get here a string back, but actually it's a string or undefined, right? So if we do here console.log of the value, when you execute that one, you will see that we have an undefined there. So what you could do is do the following thing, right? You could add here or undefined. Here we go. And that's a much better approach than what we had before. So something else that you need to be aware of, and that's a very interesting thing, is the following thing. So we have here 1, 2, and 3 as a key, right? And then we can do console.log. We can say names, and then we can, of course, say here 1. This will work, right? But we can also do console.log names 1, and then when we print this out, we'll see that it just works. It just gives you 1. So when you use that as of an index signature, you can very easily convert your string 1 into just a numeric 1. So that's also a caveat that you need to be aware of. It can be very useful when you are going to use that into your own Typescript program, right? So another thing that's very annoying is that this use case is not working, right? You have a union type of yearly salary, which is a string, and yearly bonus, and it's also a string, but still it's complaining that it says it needs to be considered. In next films, parameter type cannot be a union type. Consider using a mapped object type instead, right? And that's also something that I found very annoying in this regard. But then you just use record types. So here you have salary record, and then your yearly salary or your yearly bonus. And then of course you can very easily do that instead of this one, right? And this is okay, this just works. So that's another thing. You can very easily use records, something that you can also deep dive into if you want to. You have a little bit more of a restriction here, like you say, okay, I have here my keys, and these can be my keys, and these are my my value type. And then of course this one can be whatever you want. I think you even can have something like boolean. It's not possible. Okay, the boolean type not satisfied, constraint string number and symbol. So that's the same like in the index font, right? But of course you can have union types, which is of course a big bonus when you are going to use that instead of index signatures. So I hope you learned a lot about index signatures and that you can use this one into your own applications. Thank you very much for listening, and see you next time.